We're now going to multiply and divide numbers that are in standard form. And we're going to give our answer in standard form. So let's look at part A. Part A, we have a number in standard form being multiplied by another number in standard form. In order to do that, we are going to multiply the numbers that come before the indices. So we're going to multiply 6.4 and 2 together first. So 6.4 times 2 is going to give us 12.8. What we're then going to do is we're going to multiply the two indices. So we're now going to work out 10 to the power 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 4. Now, when you multiply two indices together with the same base, you add the powers. So 9 plus 4 is going to give us 13. So 10 to the power 9 multiplied by 10 to the power 4 is going to give us 10 to the power of 13. Now, because everything in the question was being multiplied, what we're left with now is being multiplied, so put in our multiply sign. So at the minute, our answer is 12.8 multiplied by 10 to the 13. It's nearly in standard form, not quite, because the inserted decimal point needs to be moved. We need to make this a number between 1 and 10. So in order to do that, we need to shift the inserted decimal point one place to the left. So if we do that, we're going to get 1.28 multiplied by 10. But when you move the inserted decimal point, you're going to change the value of the power. Now, before we moved the inserted decimal point, it had to move 13 places to the right. So it had to move this direction, 13 places to the right. Because we've pushed it back a place, we've moved it left, that means it has to move an extra place to the right. So its power is now going to be 14. So we have to adjust the power of 10 when we move the inserted decimal point. If we push the inserted decimal point back to the left, then we have to increase the power of 10. Okay, so that's our answer for part A. Okay, part B then. So part B, we have a number in standard form and it's being squared. So when you square something, you multiply it by itself. So the number in standard form is being multiplied by itself. So we're going to write it as 4 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 3 in brackets multiplied by itself. So again, we're multiplying two numbers that are in standard form. Multiply the numbers that come before the indices. So 4 multiplied by 4 is going to give us 16. And then we're going to multiply the two indices. So we're going to work out what 10 to the power minus 3 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 3 is. Now again, when you multiply two indices with the same base, you add the powers. So it's going to be minus 3 plus minus 3. Well, a plus and a minus side by side are going to give you a minus, so it becomes minus 3 subtract 3, which is going to be minus 6. So we're going to be left with 10 to the power of minus 6. Now, because everything originally was being multiplied, what we're left with now is being multiplied. Now again, our answer is not quite in standard form because the number we have is 16 and it should be a number between 1 and 10. So what we're going to do is push the inserted decimal point back one place. So it's now going to be 1.6. Now, before we push the inserted decimal point back one place, the inserted decimal point had to move 6 places left. But we've pushed it back 1 place left, so it only has to move a further 5 places left. So the power of 10 is just minus 5. And that's our answer for part B. Okay, part C. Now, we have a number in standard form that's being multiplied by a number that isn't in standard form. So we're going to take the number that isn't in standard form and put it in standard form. So remember, to do that, we need to make it a number between 1 and 10. So we're going to insert a decimal point immediately after the 6. And then we're going to have 6 multiplied by 10. Now the power of 10 is the number of places you have to move the inserted decimal point to get to the original one. So we're going to have to move it 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So the power of 10 is 3 or positive 3. So we have to do that first. We're now multiplying two numbers that are in standard form, so we're going to multiply the numbers that come before the indices. So 6 multiplied by 2 is just going to give us 12. We're then going to multiply the two indices together, so we're going to work out 10 to the power of 3 multiplied by 10 to the power of minus 8. Now again, when you multiply two indices with the same base, you add the powers. So it's going to be 3 plus minus 8. A plus and a minus side by side give you a minus. So we're going to be left with 3 subtract 8, which is going to give us minus 5. So we're going to be left with 10 to the power of minus 5. And again, because everything originally was being multiplied, then what we have in our answer at the minute is also being multiplied. Now again, our answer is almost in standard form, but not quite, because the number here is not a number between 1 and 10. So we've got to make it a number between 1 and 10 by pushing the inserted decimal point back 1 place. So if we do that, we're going to get 1.2, and then multiplied by 10. Now, the power of 10 will change. Now, go back to the inserted decimal point to where it originally was. It had to move 5 places left. We've pushed it back 1 place left, so it's only got 4 more places to move left. So its power is just going to be negative 4. Okay, and that's going to be our answer. Okay, part D. Now, part D, we're dividing two numbers that are in standard form. So what we're going to do first is write the division as a fraction. So I'm going to write it as 3.2 times 10 to the power 4, and that's all over 1.6 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 3. So rewrite the division as a fraction. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide the two numbers that come before the indices. So we're going to divide 3.2 by 1.6. Now, If the decimal points were not there and you had 32 divided by 16, that would just be 2. Well, if 32 divided by 16 is 2, well then 3.2 divided by 1.6 is going to give you 2. 1.6 times 2 would give you 3.2. So 3.2 divided by 1.6 is just going to give us 2. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to divide the indices. So we're going to work out 10 to the power 4 divided by 10 to the power minus 3. Now, when you're dividing two indices with the same base, remember you subtract the powers. So we're going to have 4 minus 3, which is going to become 4 plus 3, which is going to become 7. So we're going to end up with 10 to the power 7. Now, what we have is a gap here, and because we had two multiply signs, we just line up the multiply sign in our answer. Now, our answer is in standard form because the number between 1 and 10 is 2. That is between 1 and 10, so it doesn't need, the inserted decimal point doesn't need to be adjusted. So that is our final answer. Okay, part E. Okay, part E. 2 multiplied by 10 to the power 5 divided by 4 times 10 to the power 2. We're dividing with numbers in standard form, so we're going to rewrite the division as a fraction. So I'm going to rewrite it as 2 times 10 to the power 5, and that's all over 4 multiplied by 10 to the power 2. So the first thing we're going to do is divide the two numbers that come before the indices. So first thing we're going to do is work out 2 divided by 4. Well, 2 divided by 4 is going to be a half, or 0.5. We're now going to divide the two indices. So we're going to work out 10 to the power 5 divided by 10 to the power 2. Again, when you divide two indices with the same base, you subtract the power. So 5 minus 2 is just going to give us 3. So we're left with 10 to the power 3. Line up the multiply signs with the multiply signs immediately above it. So at the minute, our answer is 0.5 times 10 to the power 3. But the number here is not between 1 and 10. So we need to push the inserted decimal point one place to the right. So that's now going to become 5 and then multiplied by 10. But the power is going to change. Now, originally the inserted decimal point had to move 3 places to the right. But we've now pushed it 1 place to the right, so it only needs to move move 2 more places to the right. So the power of 10 is now just going to be 2. And that's our final answer for part E. So the purpose here is multiplying or dividing numbers in standard form and giving your answer in standard form without having to use a calculator.